First of all, I want to thank the City of West Hollywood for pairing with us on this event. And they also are a huge supporter of the June L. Mazur Lesbian Archives, which is right down the street here, this little street at 626 North Robertson, if you haven't seen it. I would like you all to, at some point today, to go to Google and put in Lesbian Archives. And then you will find, excuse me, Lesbian History Archives in Brooklyn. And the Mazur Archives will be either first or second. And you can get on our email list there. And after you do that, you could go to BLU, Black Lesbians United, and get on their email list, okay? So everybody do that later. It will help support our organizations, and we'd love to have you on our list if you're interested in this kind of programming and information. The June L. Mazur Lesbian Archives was started in Oakland in 1981. So we have been collecting, protecting, and preserving lesbian and feminist history for 44 years this year. Yeah. And we could not do it without our community's donations. And also because of the City of West Hollywood, we've been in a city building since 1989. And this, thank you. And the City of West Hollywood provides us with that space. If we had to pay rent there, we might have perished a long time ago. So I really want to thank the City of West Hollywood today. We have an amazing panel of people that all of you will want to know after this event. So feel free to come up and talk to them after. But for now, I wanted to introduce sorry, John Erickson is the newest mayor of the City of West Hollywood, and he is, come on up, John. He is a huge supporter of the archives for years and years, and he is a double master's in women's studies.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the City of West Hollywood. My name is John Erickson. I use he, him, his pronouns. And this is my amazing vice mayor, our amazing vice mayor, Chelsea Byers, for the city. I love coming to Mazur events, one, because I love Angela and I love the Mazur. And I also love coming to events for our lesbian speaker series. And I really want to thank Dee right here and our city staff for helping organize for tonight's, this afternoon's events. We take prioritizing and preserving our history very seriously here in the City of West Hollywood. So to tell Angela, don't worry, you're always going to be in that building. We've got your back. We want to make sure we're constantly doing that. We got you. Trust me, as long as we sit in those chairs, you're not going anywhere. But I just want to say to all the organizers, to the community groups, and to the panelists today, thank you for bringing about the change that we need in our community, both past, present, and future. Thank you for being the better part of what we look at when we dream of the future and the change that is possible. And thank you for always being that beacon, that great, shining city community org, activist, friends, family on a hill, because right now in a world of darkness, we need to remember our past, preserve our history, and fight like hell for the future. And I'm really excited to have this amazing panel in the city, and I'm just really thankful to each and every one of you for helping us make sure that we are here together for that together. So thank you so much.
I want to say the City of West Hollywood is the only city in the world I've ever heard of that was incorporated as a gay city. So that's no small thing. So if anybody knows of any other, tell me. It would be brand new news to me. So without further ado, I want to start the event, the panel, and I'm going to introduce Carolyn Weisinger, who's going to be the host.
Thank you so much, Angela. Thank you, Jeanette, for apparently making me the surprise moderator for today's event. Kyla says even she didn't know that I was a moderator. Like, I didn't know it was a secret. I put it on Facebook, but I guess that no one reads Facebook anymore. I want to also thank Mayor Erickson and Vice Mayor Byers, you know, as the Mayor Pro Tem of the city of El Cerrito. I know that you should, whenever you have a supportive city that's able to do these type of things for our community organizations, it is very important to the community and it's very important to the city. So thank you all for supporting our community for so long. And so now apparently, according to this ad hoc run of show that JB gave me, I am going to start off with the story of ULOAH and BLU. So our story. In 1989, an intrepid group of women gathered together to discuss an unmet need, a space for Black women who loved other women to gather, discuss our commonalities, explore our differences, and empower each other. In August of 1990, United Lesbians of African Heritage, ULOAH, was born. Yay, give it up for ULOAH. To promote Black lesbian visibility, unity, and empowerment through grassroots organizing and activism, economic independence, education, spiritual expression, ethnic culture, and the arts. And we know that BLU definitely does all those things. I don't know how they do that in 3 days, but let me keep on going. By October 1991, ULOAH members were marching with ACT UP, Queer Nation, and thousands of activists over the many nights of protests following Pete Wilson's veto of AB 101. Boo. In 1992, ULOAH rallied on the Simi Valley Courthouse steps following the acquittal of the police officers who beat Rodney King, and was the first Black LGBT organization to march in the Pasadena Black History Parade. Sister Fest, their annual Black lesbian retreat, which happened from 1991 to 2005, became an international destination. During the 90s, thousands of Black women who loved other women would descend upon the hills of Malibu for a weekend of self-discovery and celebration, with signature elements including the couples validation ceremony, African drumming and dance, the sacred space, the comfort zone, and the galleria. Workshops. Some of this stuff is so new. I got the galleria. All right. Workshops included me and Mrs. Jones. Y'all don't do that no more. Okay, keep going. Relationships in Black lesbian community, sister singles, financial freedom. What's your man got to do with me? All right. I say that anyway. I'm a mayor pro tem now. I can't say those things anymore. Bisexuality in the Black lesbian community, and from exile to the promised land, our spiritual journeys. The founders still hear from women who tell them that Sister Fest was a transformative experience for them. The first time I felt accepted, totally accepted for who I was, and provided a space for healing and self-acceptance. ULOAH collaborated with Outfest for several years, including Badass Supermamas, a celebration of films from the Black female and lesbian experience. Black and Tan, a night of multicultural comedy, was in collaboration with Little Fridas. ULOAH was part of West Hollywood's annual Lesbian Visibility Week. One popular workshop titled Black and White Women Together, Sleeping with the Enemy, explored challenges of interracial religion. Y'all was getting it in the 90s. What was going on? Anyway, keep going. Other 90s collaborations included the Nia Collective, yay, Salsa Soul, and Salsa Soul Soy Sauce with Lesbianas Unidos and Los Angeles Asian and Pacific Island Sisters, Law Pies. Other collaborations included ELAD, the Ebony Lesbians of African Descent, and Black and Gay and Lesbian Leadership Forum. In 2005, ULOAH's governing body split. This is where I came in the story. All right, I'm excited now. Okay. This is the part I know. All right. a few members elected to remain in ULOAH. However, the organization disbanded shortly thereafter. In 2009, visionary leaders Lisa Powell, give it up for Lisa Powell, Yolanda Whittington, so keep the Jeanette Bronson, Queen Hollins, and Sunshine Day joined forces to establish Black Lesbians United, otherwise known as BLU, continuing ULOAH's commitment to make the world a safe place for Black lesbians. The inaugural retreat held in October of 2009, I didn't go to that one, y'all, in the picturesque hills of Malibu, welcomed hundreds of beautiful Black lesbians, creating a transformative space for those new to the retreat experience and cherished return home for others. Since its inception, BLU has hosted the retreat annually, bringing together a vibrant community. In 2020, faced with the challenges of the pandemic, BLU pivoted gracefully, replacing the canceled retreat with a summer of virtual activities that not only created a sense of connection while quarantined, but also provided crucial support during a period of widespread civil unrest following George Floyd's murder. Beyond the retreat, BLU has actively participated in events aimed at elevating the visibility of Black queer women, both within and outside of Black community. Noteworthy engagements include marching in the LA MLK Day parades, steadfast support for Outfest and the Pan-African Film Festival, and collaborations with organizations such as Zami Nobla, Sister Friends, the Women's Freedom Festival, and the Los Angeles Gay and Lesbian Center. In 2023, BLU returned to in-person gatherings and hosted the retreat in its new location in Ojai. Also in 2023, BLU initiated SAGES, programming directed towards our 60+ sisters. Continuously evolving and passionately committed, BLU stands as a beacon of empowerment, solidarity, and celebration for Black lesbians everywhere. We are so glad that you've decided to spend your afternoon with us as we take a look back 35 years to when having a space for Black women who love other women was just a glimmer of an idea to just a few. Yes, I am. I'm Carolyn Weisinger. I didn't know why my name was there. I'm Carolyn Weisinger, your moderator for today, and a very proud member of BLU. I am, yes. On our panel today, we'll have Yolanda Whittington, a co-founder of both ULOAH and BLU. Woo! Jeanette Bronson, an honorary co-founder of ULOAH, and we all know the glue that keeps BLU together. So, woo, Jeanette. And a co-founder of BLU, Danielle Porter. We call her the queen of the young bees. All right. Who has helped organize the BLU retreat since 2009 and BLU's first program director. Today, we will hear their memories, their thoughts, and feelings. None of these women are historians, but they are thrilled to share what this unique experience was from their unique vantage point. This is not the total nor final compendium. What is this word, Jeanette? Compendium. Now, I'm an English major. Okay, of these organizations' collective history, but rather one of our first attempts to share the absolute magic and miracle of the past 35 years. Over the decades, hundreds of us have been involved and responsible for creating these spaces. And we hope this afternoon to give you a window to our world. But first, let's transport ourselves back to the 90s and experience ULOAH's first few retreats. Welcome to Sister Fest.
Sister Fest is the only event for Black lesbians here in Los Angeles. They would experience workshops, and activities unlike they've ever experienced before. For example, we have something called a couples validation ceremony. Now, it's not a marriage or anything like that. Essentially what it is, an opportunity for couples to validate one another and to be supportive as a group. And they have like this candlelight ceremony, and each of the couples, will say something of significance to their partner. It's very moving, very warm, very genuine.
Oh, we mean, can you hold her hand? Yes, you can. Do it. I'll do it in a minute. What about a few good people that don't want to be like, oh, yeah, like, I wouldn't be with nobody that don't want to be.
And maybe, that's just the angry black dyke in me coming out, but at the same time, it's time. It's time. It's our point in history. And another thing about what, I forgot your name. No, yeah, you. Lisa was saying about, dykes on bikes and how she doesn't identify with it. I can understand that because if we don't take on the names as black women, as black lesbians, then the white people are going to redefine these names, and we're going to be left without again. So so we have to bring our own flavor and our own emphasis to what it means to be a black, quote unquote, dyke, queer, lesbian, whatever. Because otherwise, they're going to make it towards their culture and tailor it for themselves, and then we're going to be without words and without, identities. It's a whole different thing to come out when there's a gay pride march and a queer nation and lesbian news and all sorts of things around. And some of the sisters, including myself, who came out in the 50s and early 60s, when there wasn't nothing out there, when the only response was, oh, you must be one of those bulldogs. It's a real different experience to then come to some sense of pride. The fact that we're sitting in this room, all as black lesbians, is a phenomenon that I could not have imagined when I came out. And so sometimes I think we lose that recent history of what it was like for those sisters who made it possible for us to sit in this room. It opened my eyes to a lot of doubtful questions I had about my lesbianism. As this being an issue for me in the last 4 years in my life, I have come to some sort of grip and realization that being a lesbian, underlined 3 times, is not a sin or a curse. A lesbian is a woman who loves another woman. There is no clause or strings attached, such as going to hell for it. It's just a feeling of wholeness when a woman can look themselves in the mirror and say she is truly a lesbian. Tina, thank you, sisters. Okay.
Well, we gonna keep this short and sweet this evening because Grandma got a hot date tonight. Oh, yeah, I kind of woman. She about 74 years old. Her name Mama Voodoo. You saw her last night. I was in good. Well, I said, you over there on the shore, we let on the night talk. You're talking. Well, anyway, I know. I seen her out there. Yeah, she said that sit-ups. I asked her if she'd come on out here tonight and say that sit-up for me. Sure. Oh. Why is she so blazing? She's running in and everybody's face. That's a lot of work. But she's done it. I just want someone to kind of blend in. It doesn't draw attention to me. I think that I'm, that way. I just don't go around broadcasting it. It has to be a political statement. I'll put a lot about it. Just like any normal person, except for what I do in marriage. Well, you know, I'm out to everyone. They all know. Except my parents, my brother, and the mailman. It's not that I don't really care about it, but I mean, that I'm. Don't go right. Sound like it's a demon. Now, I'm glad I am a woman, Dennis, I'm tall, thin, but I mean, I don't like labels.
Well, I'm not really a lesbian. I just happen to fall in love with you.
Yeah, right, and Shalonda and Tina.
At 85 and, working McDonald's, or just as long as you had medical insurance, everything was survival. But forget the dreams. It's not, they taught me out of fear, out of their fear. And, they projected that fear onto me. So if I'm angry about anything, it's probably that. The fear that was projected onto me. Because I had to forget my dream, go to college, become a nurse, and then go into a society that's based on bullshit.
Let's back up. What was your dream then?
Be an artist, dancer.
Tell them.
My parents would not allow me to be an artist or a dancer.
What did that make you feel?
No.
I am a butch, that's all I know. I make no claim to try to show how tough I am with thick stance. I'm drawn to films with just one glance. A girl who smiles at me and pulls me into her reverie. I'm always asked to find the term, I say complex, it makes them squirm. It's some about sex, some about style, you keep your inch out, clear mind. Sandy, when you call it role play, it offends our sisters who are old gay. You might think roles are passe and relate to my style as if it were a play. I don't put it on like a coat or shoe. I can't take it off to comfort you. I speak, act, talk a certain way. My persona's butch. What can I say? Sisters who are number 5s might feel I'm talking lots of jive. I tried to conform and then to lie, saying I was both. I really did try. You see a butch as a pseudo-man, I see a butch as a lesbian. I don't know why I am this way. Could be something from yesterday. Could be mom, it could be dad, something good, something bad. Possibly something in my psyche makes me feel so super dykey. My comfort's grown, I pack with ease. I'm out to explain, not to please. As a feminist butch, I try to stress. I'm not out to control or oppress. The femmes I like are hardly fluff, not dainties you would call cream puffs. Aggressive femmes with style and pride who like to have a butch by their side.
Lost in the light, you take the light. From where the sunshine on freedom shines bright. Shine on around us by day and by night. Love is the light of the world. Walk in the light, beautiful light. Somewhere the sunshine on freedom shines bright. Shine on around us by day and by night. Love is the light of the world. You're my angel, light and free. It's who we are. In the love of love, embracing love, heart to Africa. Lord, we love. It's on ground. Listen and hear the rock before you and me. Yes, for in the holy secret of love, leading joy. Hold our head high, my sister, that bring God.
Before I bring up the panelists, I just need to say that was like, you know, when you go into like your family photographs and your family videos and you see all that stuff of your mom, you're like, that's my mama. That was my auntie. At one point, I was like, when did Chloe Bailey go to Blue? I was like, oh, that's Queen. So it was just a whole lot. So while I'm getting over myself, let's bring up our panelists. First, we have Yolanda Whittington, Danielle Porter Myers, and Jeanette Bronson. So given that, oh, this water good because you got a lot on this paper and I'm parched. We're just gonna have a family conversation, right? And ask a few questions of our panelists. Nothing big. The first question, which does not have any name attached to it, so I'm assuming that means that we all need to answer it first.
Fine. It's all good.
It's yours? I'm gonna answer it for myself first because it says, what was your experience like as a Black lesbian in the 80s? In the 80s, I was 5. So only thing I remember is being obsessed with Dorinda Clark Cole from the Clark sisters and not knowing why. So at least now I know why I was obsessed. Jeanette, would you like to answer? What was it like for you in the 80s?
Can you hear me now? See, I don't know why you bothered answering that question. Well, you know, when I was 5, I was in love with my kindergarten teacher too. So it's a Miss Palmer. I still think about her. All right, so I'm adorable. What it was like for me in the 90s, in the 80s and 90s before ULOAH. I didn't have a lot of Black friends. I had some. You would find them where you find them. I found some in karate class, right, Tony? Marie, well, you were Black, but you were there. All right. We found people in choruses, but you'd go to bookstores. We'd go to Sisterhood bookstore and peruse the bulletin boards, or we'd flip through the lesbian news like we were addicts looking for something that looked like it might have something to do with Black people. You know, you'd go and, you know, we'd hang out in West Hollywood. We'd go to, I went to the Palms. Okay. You know, we'd go to the Catch. The Catch thing, nothing better than that. We would go anywhere we could to find community, but it wasn't organized, and You didn't always feel welcome, and there wasn't a sense of purpose, and it was kind of scary out there. I'll admit, it was kind of scary out there. So I'm lucky that things move forward.
Yolanda? Because I'm not going to you, Danielle.
Thank you, Jeanette. Before I answer that question, I just want to say it is just so wonderful to see so many of you here today, braving the parking, coming back to reflect with us. You know, so many familiar faces, my sisters in the room. It's just warms my heart to see you here. So I just want to say thank you for that. The other thing I just want to give credit to Johnette Newton, who wrote the lyrics to My Sister's Africa, which you've heard in the film. So the clip at least. So I just want to take a moment to acknowledge her. What was it like for me in the 80s? I came to Los Angeles in a Chevrolet Spectrum. Everything I owned was in that Spectrum. I came from New York City by way of Washington, D.C. I was homeless. I traveled by myself. I lived in that car for about a couple of days while I tried to find myself a place to live, try to find a job. I knew no one here. As a matter of fact, when I came here, I just put my finger on the map and I landed in Long Beach. So what I was hoping to experience was an opportunity to meet others like myself. And I was able to do that at my first meeting at the Gay and Lesbian Center when it was on Highland Boulevard. I'm not sure how many of you remember that. And they had a women of color group at that time. And I had the opportunity to meet Catrice Jackson, Devin Boucher, and Lenore Rivers. And that started my entree into meeting Black lesbians like myself.
Danielle, you want to tell us about when you were 6?
I was 6.
She was 6. Okay, well, tell us a little bit about the origins of ULOAH. So Yolanda, that would definitely be for you as one of the co-founders of ULOAH. How did that actually get started? Where did the idea come from?
Excellent question, Carolyn. Thank you. So I'm gonna try to give you a synopsis, but before I even talk a little bit about that, I think it's important that I acknowledge the co-founders of ULOAH. And that was Patricia Fowlks, Lisa Powell, Jo Anita Sewell, Wanda Sewell, Sandra Tigner, myself, and Monica Woodfox. You know, I think these were some amazing women. So I just want to at least share that with you. The origins of ULOAH has its roots in the Black Gay and Lesbian Leadership Forum at the time. It was around 1988 and 1989. And this was a conference that was formed to be able to address the issues for Black gays and lesbians. Now, this was trailblazing at the time because in the 80s, you didn't have Black gay and lesbian conferences. But while it was called the Black Gay and Lesbian Conference, there was no lesbian representation in the workshops whatsoever. There were no lesbian issues or agenda items that were discussed in the Black Gay and Lesbian Leadership Forums Conference. So out of that, there were a few of us who walked away, you know, pretty sad and hurt, and that we did not see ourselves in the conference. So we got together at our sister's house, our late sister's house out of Unity Fellowship. Her name is Christine Tripp, was Christine Tripp. For those of you who remember her or may know her, she opened her house to us, her home to us, and said, well, let's see if we can form a Black lesbian conference. So we were meeting, you know, pretty regularly. And then we tried to look for a place to have a conference. We had no money, did not know how to raise any money. So in our efforts of looking to find a place, we searched and found various hotels way out of our price range. We went to UCLA to see if we could use their space. We just needed a room. That wasn't available. And so it's like, okay, well, it looks like we're not going to be able to do that. So a little bit more research. We were fortunate enough to connect with our fellow Jewish sisters and brothers as part of the Jewish temple. And we were able to find a camp. And the name of that camp at the time was Cottontail Ranch. That was our first one. So when we decided to, consider having a conference at a camp, well, you know how we are as Black women and Black lesbians. Well, I don't do any camping. I ain't trying to camp. So, so slowly but surely, a few of us dissipated. And it ended up with just a few of us, about 4 of us. And the 4 that remained was Pac Fouts, myself, Lisa Powell, and Sandra Tigner, by the way, a co-founder who couldn't join us today. So we met at the French Marketplace over here in Santa Monica. For those of you who may remember, we met for lunch. And we met at 12 o'clock, noon. By the time we left, it was 7 p.m. It was a conversation about our lives, our joys, our pain, our sorrows, our wonderment, and about our sexual identity. And in that moment, we said, well, we ought to move forward with having a conference, but since it's going to be at a camp, maybe it's not really a conference, it's more of a retreat. So as we continued to birth the idea, we came into contact with other women who wanted to be a part of that planning process and was okay with having a retreat, but we also felt that there needed to be some infrastructure. So what kind of infrastructure are we talking about? What kind of infrastructure did we need? Well, we thought, should it just be limited to having a retreat, or should it be limited to having an organization and grounded in that organization a retreat? So we opted to have an organization. And so the women that I previously named became a part of United Lesbians of African Heritage. And out of that, Sister Fest was born. There was a whole discussion around the naming of United Lesbians of African Heritage. We wanted something that would have a bit of an acronym, and that's how ULOAH came to be, because back then you really couldn't call out United Lesbians. So it's safe to say ULOAH, nobody knew what that meant, but United Lesbians, you really couldn't say. So Lisa Powell and Sandra Tigner, I think, share some sort of credit with the naming of ULOAH, and of course the logo. And with regard to coming up with Sister Fest, Lisa had experience in going to the Women's Music Festival, and then we all, Sandra, Tigna, and myself, for those of you may be familiar, we would go to the West Coast Women's Comedy and Music Festival that was facilitated and organized by Robin Tyler, for those of you who may be familiar with her. So we kind of liked that idea, but it wasn't, Black enough for us. And then we went to NIA. And when we went to NIA, the lights came on, and I had the opportunity, would just like to recognize Talonda McKinney, our sister from NIA. I'd also like to recognize Sakia, who also served on the board of NIA for about 12 years. And any of our other sisters from NIA that are here and I didn't have an opportunity to see or say hello to. So that was a profound transforming experience. So we came back and we said, I think we want to see if we can have a blending of all 3. So the first thing was to talk about what were we going to call the event. And so the fest piece was about a festival of some sort. And the issue of sister allowed us to look at how we can connect. And the phonetic spelling of sister was very intentional, because we wanted to be clear who we were talking about. So that was, in fact, the naming of Sister Fest. And then out of the naming of Sister Fest, it was, how do we do the outreach? How do we get people to come? What does the planning look like? How do we bring a committee together? So we reached out to people we knew. I'm out there passing out flyers at the Catch, going to the Roots Room, going to Unity Fellowship, and just sharing with various people about the upcoming first Sister Fest that we were going to have. What was really important in our discussion for, planning for our first retreat was, what was the experience like? What did we want attendees to feel when they came to Sister Fest? And I have to credit Lisa Powell for this, because she was really detailed. And one of the things that she stressed, and we all agreed with as a planning body, is that we wanted people to have a welcoming experience. We wanted people to feel a sense of belonging. We also wanted to ensure that there was abstinence of alcohol and illicit substance use, not because we were being intentional about having a clean and sober space. We didn't know anything about clean and sober at the time. But what we wanted to ensure is that people would bring their authentic selves. We wanted us to be as vulnerable as we can. We wanted to see each other for who we truly were. And that way, it would allow us to connect in such a way it would bring us closer together. In addition to that, we wanted to have back-to-back events. We did not want y'all to take a breath. We didn't want any lulls. We wanted you to have, a really enjoyable time. So in our discussions, for our first retreat, it was just important to have an opportunity or create a safe space for us to converse, to talk about taboo topics, to talk about what it means to be Black lesbians, to talk about what it means to, to even say the L word. You're talking about women who were ostracized and alienated from their communities. They were abandoned and excommunicated from their faith centers. And so this brought us an opportunity to be able to come together. So the basic programmings and workshops and discussion groups included games and activities. And what also made Sister Fest great in terms of the planning is that we invited women to share their ideas, their thoughts, to give input, so that you had a bit of a gumbo, so to speak, so that you had some diversity. So the opening and closing ceremony, that became a part of it, as well as creating the sacred space, the couples validation, all that you saw and heard. The sporting events, spirituality was really important. African drumming became really important. And I also want to just share with you briefly that in this space around being abstinent and not using illicit substances, it created an opportunity for sisters who were seeking sobriety and practicing sobriety and wanting a clean and sober space to come to. So I just want to I know it's anonymous, but I want to say a couple of first names, because I think it's important to credit these sisters, because they created that clean and sober space and allowed us, or yeah, I'd say us, to have anonymous fellowship meetings. So just, Lillian, who's not with us, but she was a big part of that. Lovey, Toya, Michelle, Nia, Salquette, Beverly, Betty, Bonnie, Robin, and Deb. So just a few of you. So I just want to just honor you and thank you. We celebrate you and thank you for introducing us. So that's pretty much what I'll just say about the starting of Sister Fest. And thank you.
This this really needs. I hope and I pray, and having sat through the LGBT archives in the San Francisco Library, I hope that we are writing all this down. I know Jeanette collects everything, and so I hope that this is going to turn into some documentary of some sort. Okay. So JB, how then did you get involved with ULOAH and BLU?
I think I'll let young Jeanette tell you about it.
How about ULOAH? Oh, I found out about ULOAH at the Long Beach Gay and Lesbian Pride Festival. And I was walking through the crowd amongst all the thousands of Caucasian people. And somebody grabbed my hand and pulled me out of a crowd and said they wanted to tell me about ULOAH. And I thought this woman was crazy. And it was Sandra Tigner. And she really changed my life. Because up until that point, I called myself a white Jewish lesbian. Everybody I knew was white, and a lot of them were Jewish, and I spent most of my time in that community. So that was back in 1990, before the first Sister Fest, 1991. I came to Sister Fest, and everything's been different since.
I told y'all Jeanette is an archivist. Go ahead, Jeanette, add on to that.
You know, that's part of the story. The other part of the story is I knew about the Black, Gay, and Lesbian Leadership Forum, and I knew about the meetings that they were having to have, you know, a Black women's event, but I was too afraid to go. Have you ever had that where I don't know what I'm gonna wear. I don't know what my hair is gonna look like. Are they gonna like me? And I stayed at home. I wasn't quite a leader yet, but you know, it came eventually. But you know, I just want to share that we all have those feelings where we don't feel like we are good enough, and we don't feel like this is our place. And I really encourage not just you all to get out, because you all are out here, but to make sure that we reach out and bring others in. Because when we're doing our recruiting, you know, people come by the booth and we really have to go out and grab them, because they're doing this, trying to ignore us, because they're not comfortable being, as we say, our true and authentic selves, and they don't know what it means. So just wanted to share that.
Danielle, same question. How did you get involved with BLU?
Hey, y'all. So I actually got involved with BLU by accident, and I'm gonna blame Danielle because she's here right now. So actually, BLU was planning the new retreat in 2009, and Danielle needed a ride to the planning meeting. And so I said, okay, well, I'll take you. And I'm just going to wait in the car. She said it's going to be like an hour meeting and it's going to be fine. So I said, oh, you know, I'll just wait in the car and hang out or whatever. And Yolanda saw me and was like, what are you doing in the car? And I was like, oh, I'm just waiting. She was like, well, you can come in here. So I came in the building and I was kind of sitting in like the lobby area and everybody was in the meeting room. And she was like, well, just come in. And so I sat down and now I'm here. So like,
Well, I'm going to add on to that, Danielle, because how did I get involved? I got the same story. I mean, you know, damn, yo, I guess was responsible for getting all the young people, I guess, and invited me to come, but I didn't come that first year because I'm going to tell the truth, y'all. I was riding dirty. My tag was bad. I didn't feel like driving through Malibu as a Black woman with bad tags. If I knew what I knew about BLU now, I would have just drove on them bad tags, but I didn't do it. I didn't come that first year. But thank you, Danielle. We appreciate you for all you contributed to BLU as well.
yes.
Getting us all involved. We were just sitting minding our own self business. Anyway, so JB, then what was it like organizing ULOAH back in the 90s?
It was so different than it is today. Everything we did, every communication we did was by mail. And for those of you who've done these mail things, you have a big room and you have somebody over here folding and you have somebody over here stuffing and you have somebody putting the label on, somebody put the stamp on, and that poor last child at the end. That child. You know, and I will say this, talk about growth experiences. One time we were having one of those mailings and I had made the flyer and I had printed the flyer and we spent a lot of money on a great, beautiful, glossy, you know, flyer. And as somebody folded it and put it in there, they said, Jeanette, that's not the date of the event. See, and these are the things you learn here, because in sisterhood, this one said, not a problem. And we all got out pens and we changed the date. And then we folded it and we stuffed it and we licked it and we moved on. Not a big deal. Thank you, Yolanda.
I would have cried.
We had phone trees. Anybody remember phone trees? For those who don't know, somebody has the message, they called 10 people, and those 10 people called 10 people, and the last people who get the message have no idea what happened. But that's how we were organizing. You know, we would send our letters out and we didn't always know where they went. You know, I mean, I'm serious. I
Thank
mean,
you, post office.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, post office.
No, I mean, they got to the places, but we didn't know who the people were because we weren't interacting like you might interact now. We would send mail to people in Kansas. We would send mail all across the country. And every once in a while, we would get a quiet, you know, voicemail. Please don't send this to my house anymore. My husband saw it. And I felt for that woman. And I wanted to write back, do you have a P.O. box? But sometimes we did get the calls from other people who intercepted the email. Don't send this crap to my daughter anymore. Don't send this to my wife anymore. You know, it was different. I mean, we didn't have our own personal inboxes where we could get this information. We had some amazing events. Now, I'm so sorry Lisa Powell isn't here because Lisa Powell, Yolanda, Sandra, visionaries. Pat Fouts too, visionaries. They had these amazing ideas. We had these talent events, and Lisa had the capacity to always capture the zeitgeist. She would, whatever was going on in the world, she would be able to pull it in and make it into an event. So let's see how old you are, because we had Girls in the Hood. We had Mo Better Girls. And then the last time we had New Dyke City.
So basically that was the 1992 retreat. Is it? Okay.
Well, these were actual events. We had standalone events. They were amazing. Yolanda hosted something or held something called Black Satin. And we just thought we were going to hear an evening of jazz, but just with our local talented Black women. We just thought it was just amazing, right? We were enjoying ourselves. And then somebody started playing a riff of a song we all knew, and up stood Tina Marie. That's what we said. What? The screaming. We didn't hear her sing at all. All we heard was the screaming. Only she knew that she was coming. But that's kind of how we were rolling in the 90s. I don't know. We had small events, we had big events. We lucked out and connected and were able to pull people in. But it was different than it is now, because now you can email people, and now you have Facebook and Instagram and that other thing that was called Twitter. And it's different interacting. It's funny though, it seemed like we were closer then. I mean, now it's harder. We have to compete for eyeballs. And, you know, when I send out the newsletters now, nobody writes back. Before, people would write a note back, you know, saying, oh, thanks for the newsletter. You know, it's just, you send it out and it's crickets, and you wonder, are people out there? And I think it's just a bit different in terms of what's going on in our society. So I do want to tell one quick story. These women, no, again, I went to the first Sister Fest. I didn't plan the first Sister Fest. But when I registered and I sent in my money, I got my confirmation back. And it came in an envelope from First Interstate Bank. It's like, what is this? And these were these women using every resource they had. Yolanda worked at First Interstate Bank, which allowed us to move forward and get everybody at the retreat. I will say that I worked for the County of Los Angeles. I still do. I have 1 year, 10 months, and 5 days left. Not that I'm guilty, but I thank LA County, because I used to work in the training section, and almost all of our materials for several years came from the stock room. So thank you, LA County. It'll take you too long to fire me now, so I can share this tale. That's about it.
That's it. Thank you, LA County, for supporting BLU. And please, Jeanette only got 1 year and 10 days. Please don't be messing with her now. Okay, so I'll start with you again, Jeanette. How do you think that ULOAH and BLU has impacted your lives and those who have participated? This should have probably been the last question, but go ahead, answer it now. Because this is like the wrap-up question. This is like the big crying question.
Well, sad to say, the last question actually is very close to the same. I didn't realize that until now. But how did it impact my life? I think things that it did for me was it gave me friends. It gave me purpose. It gave me connections to people in other organizations. I mean, one of my best friends I got because she knew me because I was an organizer and we found each other on Facebook, and it just happened that way. Yes, I'm talking about you, Lynn. We it changed my life in so many ways, but I'll tell one story, and I think you might relate to this. When I came out, my mother and I were a bit estranged. And when I mean a bit, I mean a lot. My mother was 44 years older than me, and although she was a psychiatric social worker, she was worried that I would be miserable, unhappy, and she, accosted me, you're a lesbian, stop acting like a lesbian, don't be a lesbian, and then actually I thought lesbian was quite an ugly word because my mother was yelling it at me. It took, ULOAH for me to really appreciate the word again. But that said, somewhere in the early 90s, we had an event and we needed folding chairs. And we didn't have any. And again, we were bare bones, grassroots. And so I stood up in a meeting and I said, well, my mother has 27 folding chairs, which I knew because it was my job to fold them, put them away, and dust them. You understand. So I knew exactly where they were and how many. And I called her and I said, can we use your folding chairs? And she said, okay. And Lisa Powell and her roommate, Susan, went to my mother's house in their brown pickup truck and picked up those folding chairs. And I do not know what those women said to my mother, but she called me and said, they're such nice lesbians. And I think it's because Lisa and Susan were accomplished women. They were well-spoken women. They were about as smart as anybody I've ever met. I really do think they're two of the smartest people I know. And they were hale, hearty, whole. They owned property and they had a life and a future. And I don't know what they talked about while the loading of the 27 chairs happened. But after that, my mother became not just more open to me, but she became one of our biggest supporters. She bought our banner. She came to an event we had at Highways. It was truly amazing. So I can tell you a million things that ULOAH has done for me, but it did that for me. And my mother was only alive about 5 years after that. So if we hadn't had that, I don't know where that would have ended.
Then yeah, we're gonna break the question in half since JB put it on there twice. So just how did BLU affect your life, or how has it changed your life?
So I came out when I was 26, and I felt really lost. And I had been somebody who was deeply enmeshed in church. Very, very, very involved in church, and in fact had started to go to school to become a pastor. So when I came out and feeling that separation, when I say that I was broken, I was absolutely broken. I was devastated. I mean, I really dropped my basket. I didn't know how to handle it. And I didn't have any frame of reference for any other type of spirituality, religion. I didn't know any other way of being, truthfully. So when I showed up at BLU and saw this space with all these beautiful Black women, just being there in general was already healing. But the first thing that I remember, and probably the most impactful, and I get emotional. Harvick Nukin. Okay, so I get emotional talking about it. Sorry. You're so good. So at the very first retreat, this is when we were at Camp Hess Kramer, right? As the women were driving in, we had a welcome committee. And the committee was standing out front and everybody was cheering and we had signs and they were dancing and they were just like, welcome home, welcome home, welcome home. And it felt amazing. And you don't know what you're missing until somebody gives it to you. You don't know that you're operating from a deficit until somebody pours something into you. You don't know what's hollow inside until somebody starts to fill it. And that celebration at the very moment let me know, one, how much pain I had been in, but how much beauty there was coming. And I was overwhelmed in that moment, just absolutely. Girl, like, I was absolutely overwhelmed. And it was like, we are being celebrated not for anything that we did, but just for who we are, just for being us. Somebody is saying you are loved just for you. And I think that was also difficult because my mom and I were best friends, our best friends. My mom, I talked to my mom every single day. We had a running thing. I would call her at work. She worked for the state. I called her every day at work and I asked her, what are you doing? And she would be like, working. She would say, I'm working. And I would say, yeah, but are you working? Or like, are you working? Like every single day. But when I came out, my mom stopped speaking to me. And it didn't last that long because she had a lot to get over. But the fact that that happened at all was very difficult for me. And throughout my relationships, my mom was struggling with, coming around. Like I knew she loved me, but this was definitely difficult for her. So when I showed up at BLU, that was the hug that I needed. And then, because you hadn't done enough already, it was also the first time that I had seen sacred space. And so for anybody who has been to the retreat, you know how healing sacred space can be. But basically what happens is that Queen and her amazing team would show up Thursday night before the retreat started on Friday, and they would stay up all night long. And they would take a regular classroom or conference room and they would cover every inch of the room, ceiling, floors, every single inch of the walls, and turn it into an entire spiritual center. And it was healing, and you could meditate in there. It was beautiful. And when I walked into that space, that was the first time that I knew that there was something else for me spiritually. And um, I think that one of the things that we talk about all the time when we talk about spirituality and we talk about, homophobia in the Black church is that oftentimes we talk about it in a religious way and we don't always talk about it in a cultural way. And so when you think about every time you hear about any type of, you talk about the civil rights movement, you talk about anything that's going on with Black people, almost always there is something with the Black church involved, right? Even when you talk about the founding of the NAACP and SNCC and all these other organizations, you have people who are leaders in the Black church who form these organizations. So when you cut off somebody from church in the Black community, you are not just cutting them off religiously, you're cutting them off culturally. How much stuff happens in the Black church? This is all your barbecues. These are where you met your play cousins and your aunties and all the things that are going on, all your meetings. There's so much tied into even the way that we talk to one another, right? Like our language about, that we use is a lot of that is from the Black church. And so ripping that away causes a pain that is hard to quantify. And walking into sacred space gave me the hope that there was something else for me in that vein, not just spiritually, but also culturally. I felt tied back in to our roots. And I had no frame of reference how I was going to heal that hole in my heart. I had no idea what to do next. And I had been floundering with it for years. And then to just walk onto that land and have an answer laid out for me, it was absolutely huge. And that was one of the reasons why I committed to ensuring that this space continues to remain for anybody else that's coming after me.
I don't think that we can underestimate or undervalue the spirituality of the Blue Retreat, the spiritual leadership that Queen brings into that space, and so many people who have been healed spiritually, whether it's from a Christian church, Muslim background, whatever it is, that have been healed in that space. I remember I did the sacred space 1 year, and after we finished the sacred space, because yes, it took all night, and Queen said, "Carolyn, I want you to pray over this space." And y'all that know me, I'm super churchy. I'm from the Louisiana Black Baptist Church, still am, daughter of or granddaughter of a deacon. I can pray. I can pray to Jesus all day long. But I was like, I don't think I should be the one praying over the sacred space. I'm about to be praying about Jesus, God, and all this, all. And Queen says, no, you are exactly the one that needs to be praying over the sacred space. And she goes in and she talks about the cultural history of the ways that we were brought into Christianity, how that relates back to our African heritage. I mean, there are a lot of folks who have found that same healing. So I don't even, is Queen here? If she's not, she is very greatly appreciated for that. So thank you for that story, Danielle. Yolanda, how has ULOAH and BLU impacted you?
Thank you, Carolyn. It's still impacting me. It hasn't
I
stopped.
just didn't know that was you at the beginning of that movie. I'm just still, I'm just still. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What a change. Danielle, I so resonate with what you shared, particularly about your mom not being able to accept you in that moment, and you're being able to find a sense of home in the Blue family. I'm an only child, so I have no brothers and sisters, and I've been a lesbian my entire life. I've never had a husband, never had a boyfriend, never dated men, never cared to. However, I come from a very homophobic family, extremely homophobic. So as an only child with no siblings, I had asked my mom, I said, this was during the time of the Anita Bryant, peak of that homophobia. And it used to really trouble me what Anita Bryant would say about gays. And she specifically said gays, not necessarily lesbians. But I said to my mom, I said, Mom, what if I was gay? What if I was quote unquote homosexual? How would you feel about that? My mother was a smoker. So she took a drag of her cigarette, licked those ashes, looked me dead in my face and said, I would disown you. Now, if you're an only child, you have no siblings, don't know who your father is, it's just you. So ULOAH and BLU continue to be my family. It has been a transformative personal experience. I could not sit before you today with a sense of self-worth, a sense of feeling like I belong, a sense of connection, had I not had that experience with ULOAH, and had I not be still connected to BLU. It was trauma healing, continues to be trauma healing for me, because I think that's lifelong. It allowed me to build lifelong friendships with quite a few of you who I've known for over 30 years, who I believe I can call upon if I ever needed to. And that is so appreciative to me. It's about affirmation and validation. That's how it's impacted me. These cherished memories that we have, the fun, the joy, the laughter, the forgiveness when we fall out, the unconditional love, the spirituality, the expressed gratitude that I have for my past and present experiences and my experiences with past and present retreat attendees. Anytime I came connected with any sister or person at BLU and or ULOAH who I didn't know, that was someone who became a part of my life. I say that, you know, I was excited about being a part of ULOAH because it gave me an opportunity, you know, to look for, you know, a woman. Oh yeah, I can get me a woman. Oh, this is an opportunity for me to meet somebody. All these women here. Yes, yes, yes. But in my search for finding that woman, I did find her. And the woman I found is me.
That was a mic. You saw how Yolanda just sat back like I'm done. Just like she knew that was a quotable right there. Somebody gonna tweet that. But you can't drop the
Flicked
mic
those
yet.
ashes. She
You
flicked the
can't drop
ashes
the
and
mic
moved on.
yet because I'm. All right. So Yolanda, we'll stick with you. It's been 33 years since the first retreat. What do you think made Sister Fest and later BLU so special?
Three things stand out for me, Carolyn. Lisa, you know, she was great for coming up with all kinds of sayings and themes for Sister Fest in particularly. And there was one saying, a phrase, a theme that she had identified, and it resonates with me today. And that theme is love always your sister. But it's love in all the many ways that you can love your sister. Always love her and know that you are always connected and that she will love you and that you have an obligation to your sister. So in those 33 plus years, you know, for me, that is a critical importance for me to love each other. Also to be available to all of my sisters and accessible to all of my sisters. I have a duty, personal duty, and commitment to be of service to everyone in this room because without each and every one of us, none of us can be here. So that is critically important for me. The third piece, and there's more, but I'm just going to close it with the third. The third is about compassion and empathy for the struggles that we go through each and every day. It's important for me that there be no judgment. There's important for me that there be unconditional love and that sense of community and family. And ULOAH and BLU continue to be that. And this woman here, Jeanette, we fought, we fallen out at everything, but I'm gonna tell you right now, if anything should happen to her and Kyla called me, I don't care if we weren't speaking, I'd go straight to whatever Kyla needed me to do for Jeanette. I'd be right there for her. And then once that we resolve that, then maybe I'd go back to not speaking to her. I'd be there for her.
I told y'all this was a family conversation. Because that sounds like a JB.
Well, you know, it's funny. We actually had plotted out what we would cover in these answers. And we were actually talking about different events, but I thought, you know, before we got there, I was like, well, I want to talk about these relationships. And then I turned around and Yolanda has pretty much said everything I wanted to say, which I probably should also mention. She is also one of the most brilliant, amazing, heart open people you will ever meet in your entire life. And she knows I will do anything for her as well. So thank you, Yolanda. You know, what made this so special, I think, had to do with what we thought of. We thought it out. It seems effortless when we get there, but it is a struggle every day, every minute to make sure that things move forward. We try to give our participants what they need wrapped up in a lot of what they want. Okay, so they don't even know. They don't know until they get it. And everybody's usually quite surprised, or we'll have a workshop that's supposed to be 90 minutes and the people won't leave. They want what we're giving. We have a variety of events during the retreats where it will be intense and then it won't be intense. One of the things Lisa Powell used to train us on was how to get the flow of the retreat. You start about here and you build them up and you drop them a little bit. And then you build them up some more and you drop them a little bit. And then you build them up and you send them home. But she was a master at that. And we all learned that. And I think we've done pretty well at continuing this. And I mean, what worked. We don't need to recreate the wheel all the time, but we do change with the times. We do have different events. We do have different focuses. We do sometimes change our language. But I do want to mention that we had events like the couples validation ceremony, which Yolanda created, which was a way for us to validate not just our relationships, our intimate, personal, love relationships, but also our friendships. People would get it and validate their friendships, and that really cemented it. I will say that we did move on, and when marriage became legal, we actually had a big mass wedding at the retreat. That was actually quite amazing. We had 4 couples who came and got married, and here's some of the pictures. This was really amazing. Eight women participated, and 2 of the women are no longer alive. And so I want to shout out to Pat Hicks and to Cherie Costa, sisters. These were 2 sisters who married their partners there. And there were no words. So I'm usually not without words. So that said, the marriage was amazing. The marriage ceremony was amazing. But now, after we had this conversation, I kind of regret not continuing the couples validation ceremony because we're missing that other part. So, I want to thank Angela for a whole bunch of things, but one of the things is that we've sat and talked more in the past few weeks than I've talked to you all in years. And that's something I want to bring back. We have a pool party.
All right, listen, I'm a mayor pro tem now. Can't be telling all the business.
I have pictures.
No pictures.
I have pictures as well.
Destroy them.
We have video. It's 2024. We have video. We have 360-degree video. But when we have that pool party, it's a place for women to just feel themselves, to be comfortable. I mean, there's no stress. It's not a lot of drama. The same with when we have our sports, when we have our football or our basketball, those jocks finally get their place. They didn't want to go to a freaking workshop. They want to play football. And they do. They have the chance that they didn't have in high school. They had the chance that they didn't have other places to be the star of the football game. I know we're running short, but did you want to talk about something?
I was going to talk about Butt Naked Swim.
And that's actually separate from the pool party. So yes, talk about Butt Naked
separate
Swim.
from the pool
Yes,
party.
go ahead, but
So-
don't say my name.
So it's kind of funny. When we were talking,
Say the name again. I don't think.
Butt Naked Swim. So when we were talking about the things that were meaningful to us, it's kind of funny because sometimes at the retreat, basically when I first started, it was called Midnight. We were referring it to the Midnight Swim. And everybody would kind of get together in the late hours, around midnight, and go get in the pool. But until we were planning this, I didn't know how this started. But Yolanda said one night they went down, and then somebody just took off their clothes and jumped in the pool, and then everybody else started to jump in. But that became a tradition at the retreat, right? And so, um, and I think that like something that started off as fun, I really like how you put it, giving people what they need wrapped up in what they want. When people start talking about it, butt naked swim is not on the program when you
As it
when you
should
show
not
up at
be.
the retreat. It's not scheduled. But the news gets around that this is going to happen, and everybody plans to make it to the pool at that point in time. And when we first talk about it, it's all like, oh my God, everybody gonna be naked. You already have your eye on somebody. Is she gonna be there? It's like you feel like that. But then you go, and yeah, there is that. You have fun, and there's a lot of flirting and everything. But really, 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 for me, you go out there, and it's just like in 2009, when that happened, 2010, that was my introduction to body positivity. So, it was something that I needed wrapped up in something that you want, and you just go and have fun. But when you're standing there with women of all shapes and sizes, and also let's not, neglect gender presentation when you're clothed, right? And you come into the pool and you have both femmes and masculine of center individuals bearing their breasts and having a great time and enjoying their own bodies and feeling comfortable. What does that tell you? And I'll tell you, it's so funny. I'm not going to get deep into this too much, but being a Black woman who was raised around a lot of white women, when I was in high school and I was literally a size 4, so many sizes smaller than I am now, I felt fat. And it was because my body was not built the way that the girls that I went to school with were built. I had hips, I had butt, I had thighs, and so I was always super conscientious about my body and feeling too big. And I get there, and these women do not care. And they running around the pool deck. And even my wife, who I met at the retreat in 2019. Hi, baby. Uh, she jumped off the diving board butt naked, and was like, had a great time. And it's like, wow, look at that. That is joy. That is Black joy. That is Black freedom. And I like that. I appreciated it. And that came out of, for me, butt naked swim.
Butt naked swim is just very important.
You
That's
heard it
important
here.
business.
You heard it here. Butt naked swim.
I feel like in 2013, I remember that was the same year as the weddings. And I remember we went for butt naked swim, but the pool wasn't heated and the lights weren't on. And we broke into the pool, and later the pool was heated. And that's pretty much how it goes now. I almost died for hypothermia when I got out, but I'm still here. Praise God and all his angels. Okay. So next question, because we're getting towards the end. So JB, we'll go with you first. Why was it important for you to create an organization that addresses the intersectionality of being queer, Black, and a woman? How did you navigate the homophobia specifically within the Black community? That's a long question to be at the end, JB, but go ahead.
And obviously I didn't write that question.
Oh, okay. Danielle wrote it?
Probably. My bad. We have to navigate so many different communities in who we are. And I remember, Lisa was really hot and bothered that we go out to Simi Valley and protest the Rodney King verdict. And we were scared. We had our banner and we hid behind that banner. That banner took a lot of beating in just emotional beating because we just stood there behind the banner, but we were seen. Not only were we seen by the entire community, but we were seen by the Black community, and we were there. And then we did the Black History Parade in Pasadena. Oh, that was fun. We're marching down the street, And, you have people on both sides. So you don't really have anywhere to go except down this street. So you're just, you don't have a choice. So we're coming down the street, and some people would, slow clap us or whatever, but most people weren't that accepting. And again, this is in the early 90s. Some people would, cover their children's eyes as we came by. I remember one guy, he was not on the speed reading team. He got up in the street, he ran in the street and read our sign: United Lesbians of African Heritage. Lesbians? He looked at, he was standing right in front of us in the middle of the street. And we were like, yeah, lesbians. And he said, okay. And he walked off. And, one thing about bullies is when you confront a bully, they leave you alone generally. And that's what we learned, I think in that experience. We did it several times, and it was frightening, but it was about as empowering to be there with my sisters that I can understand. I did that with Yolanda. So it to flip in the 2020s, no, what are the 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, to participate with some of these folks and walk down the street, in South Central at the MLK parades. Now that was something else. We had a lot of the same responses, but we had a lot more clapping. I remember the grandmother on the corner going, "Grandbaby's a lesbian. She's a lesbian."
That's progress, folks. That is progress.
But being seen, being out there, making sure they know that we're here, making sure people, even if people come and they don't join our group, just being seen is really important. Visibility is everything. And I'm going to stop there. I know we're running out of time. Did you want to?
I'm just going to ask Yolanda to answer that question. We're going to skip Danielle on this one. Go ahead, Yolanda.
Oh, I'll be quick. Thank you, Carolyn. I think, Danielle would be great to answer this question. So I'll just say this. What's important to me is intergenerational connection. That is invaluable experience. During my involvement with ULOAH, Sandra Tigner is 20 plus years my senior. That allowed us to connect, and I was able to watch her as a maturing lesbian. And one of the things I did notice is that throughout our 35 going on 40-year friendship, the lesbians who were passing away in social isolation, alone, not, being visible. And younger, Black lesbians or our Black queer persons aren't necessarily seeing older Black queer persons. So they think we don't exist. They just think that we're somehow invisible and have gone away. And I'm looking forward to the opportunity, Danielle, for us to bridge that gap so that we can be your aunties, your grandmamas, all those things to you to help you shepherd in this life, because we need one another. It is so important. So that to me is critical.
Danielle, you want to answer very quickly?
The only thing that I want to say about this is that, especially, the thing of it is that when you are Black and if your family disconnects from you because you are gay, there is also a cultural disconnect, right? And so it is important. The one thing that I liked about BLU and the things that they were doing with the opening ceremonies and closing and the drumming and the singing and the sacred space, which had, Yoruba traditions and Ifa traditions and all this involved in there, is that it provides a connection to Black community that you may be being pulled away from because of disconnection with your family. So I really appreciate the fact that BLU provides that, because, even for myself as an example, the hardest group that was for me to come out with, I know I talked about my mom and we're in a really good place, I should say that right now, but I was in a Black sorority. and I'm a member of Sigma Gamma Rho, and coming out in that space was really, really, really difficult. And that had been my sisterhood at that point in time. And that was also a very cultural connection. And so when I got to BLU, that gave me a different type of sisterhood where I could be 100% myself instead of just, 75% of myself, let's say. So I think that, ULOAH and BLU provided that space for so many people to continue that type of connection.
All right, okay.
I want to take an opportunity because I don't think we've remembered to put it in the questions. So ULOAH and BLU are spaces for Black women who love other women, inclusive. I want to say inclusive because I don't, as we struggle with new language, as we struggle to not use women all the time and not use sister all the time, which is hard because that's our history. I have to write these newsletters and I'm trying to navigate how to still talk about our history without cutting out swaths of people. We are a group that is inclusive. If you find yourself somewhere on the spectrum where woman has something to do with you, then this is the place for you. Okay. This is how we are. And I want to make sure this is heard. I want to make sure people understand this. And I want to make sure people share this because I understand there's an issue with the name because in the name it's Black Lesbians United. And as I've told people, BLU or Black Queer United does not sound as good. And blue is my favorite color. And I'm really not trying to change that. We're like NAACP. We're just gonna keep the name. But that doesn't mean that the intention isn't there. And that doesn't mean that if sometimes there's a word that you're not happy with, or there's a conversation that might not fit you, it is still for us. And, we are Black Lesbians United, inclusive. So share that with people when you hear, other people say things. We've had gender, non-binary people come to the retreat, and I love my young friends. Young friends always got something to say. You know what I'm saying? Always got something to say. And they want to, from the beginning, oh, well, whatever. But by the end, they're having the best time. This is for them. This is for all of us. So thanks for giving me that.
So this is now a lightning round question because we only have 7 minutes left. And I'm going to change the question slightly. What do you think, I'll start with Danielle, what do you think has been the historical impact of ULOAH and BLU, and what would you like for the impact to be going into the future?
So
lightning round.
It is lightning. Okay, I am long-winded, I'm sorry. Okay, so I would say this. I think that I like to think of BLU as a well that you come to drink from, get well, and then take that out into the world. And so that has happened for so many of us at the retreat. Sometimes it's with the other events that we do. Sometimes it's just with the connections that we make. I think that as long as we continue to talk to people, be involved in the community, and hear what people need, that we will continue to be that well for people to come into, get what they need, and take that out into the world. And that's all I could really ask for from the organization.
Well said. JB, what do you think has been the impact on the LGBTQ community, and what do you hope will be the impact in the future?
Well, one of the things that has come out of our organizing is that people learn how to organize themselves. I often joke about, or not joke, serious about it. We are oftentimes a victim of our own success because we bring our family together and they meet their friends and they decide, we need the Earth Lodge. We needed Nawiri. We needed all of these other groups. I was looking on Facebook and there was a group of women traveling to Brazil, and I swear half of them in that group were at BLU last year. So people find themselves and they move on, and they don't always need to come back. But when they need to come back, they come back. The women in 2005 were sadly surprised that the retreat wasn't there for them when ULOAH, disbanded. The women who were clamoring, in 2020, we need to have a retreat. And I was like, we need to breathe. So we tried it another way. We went online and did it. So, we continue to spread out. We continue to ripple the water, the butterfly effect, and it's amazing. But what's really cool is you go around the country or even some other places of the world and be like, oh, Black Lesbians United, with the circle, that's you. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
That was a good lightning round answer, JB. I loved it. Yolanda.
All right, lightning round it is. Continuity, it's very important that we continue this. I also think consistency, being consistent is absolutely critical. And of course, evolution. There's always opportunity for us to evolve, and we invite you all to be a part of it.
Well, I want to thank our BLU organizers, our co-founders for this panel. Thank you for inviting me. It's always, I always end up coming to BLU when I'm feeling a little bit down, and then I get in BLU and then I'm up again. So thank you. I don't know how this event is supposed to end, so.
I'll take it, Carolyn. I want to thank Angela Rinskelly. Look at that woman right there. She's with the Mazer Archive and has been bugging me for more decades than I count for archival material. But she's been really wanting to do something. And I keep saying, I don't have time. And she pestered and pushed. And I said yes. And I have to tell you, this has been one of the best experiences of my life. I've spent hours on the phone, on Zoom with the two of them, rehashing basically my life and things that I know and stories that I didn't know and things that I'd long since forgotten. So I want to thank you again for your persistence and for doing this. I want to thank the city. Thank you, Angela. I want to thank the city of West Hollywood. I want to thank our interpreters. There we have Brenda and we have Kyla who are here to provide these services. Thank you so much. Donating their time. Let me say that, donating their time because they love our community. I want to thank, families are all inclusive, and I want to thank, you all enjoyed the photos and the videos. The person that helps me put that together is our roommate, Nancy. Nancy is the bomb. Nancy edits the videos. She helps us. Years ago when we had a hard drive fail after the wedding, she rebuilt the hard drive, got a motherboard, got software, and dragged those pictures one at a time, and there were almost 14,000 of them. So, 1,400 of them. So thank you to Nancy. I forget to thank her. I want to thank Danielle, because Danielle has stepped up in ways that I can't describe. And the thing I like about her is she says what I want to say better than I say it. So I thank you for that. I want to thank all of you for coming. I want to thank the, especially, I don't know when this happened, but I became the old person in the room. Have you all had that experience yet? Where all of us, some lady was trying to load something in her car and I was trying to help her. I'm like, wait a minute, you're younger than I am. So never mind. But I want to thank all of you who have come behind us and who are going to continue this work. And I'm looking at some of you because after I retire, I might not do it full time. But I really want to thank Yolanda because she's held it together all of these years. She is brilliant. She's amazing. She is one of the best people I've ever met. And we found out stuff about Yolanda we didn't even have any idea. It's amazing. Yolanda is, one day we'll share her CV and you'll go, damn. We should get a QR code where you can just look and see what people did in their lives. But I want to thank you, Yolanda. I want to thank the other ULOAH founders who are not here. Without them, many of us would not be here today. Many of us wouldn't be alive today. Many of us wouldn't be happy today because they took the time not knowing what was going to happen and did it anyway. So thank you for that, Yolanda. And thank you, everybody, for coming.
JB, can I add one thing? I need to add one thing.
Yeah.
The political side of me, who is also a fundraiser, says you do not leave an event where you give history without the hard ask.
Oh, right.
So we've sat here for 2 hours and told you how important BLU has been to this community for 35 plus years, but it is held together by string until they start taking registrations for the retreat. So if you have the capacity, I know that there is a button somewhere on the website, isn't there, Jeanette?
Yes, if you go to blacklesbiansunited.org and click on our most recent website, just scroll down just a touch and you'll be able to
If
donate.
you have your own funds, if you come into some money, like last year I came into some money, if you come into some money, please sow into this organization because it does take a lot for them to keep it together outside of the actual planning time. So that's the hard ask.
I'm sorry, I forgot one thing. I'm gonna get back to the hard ask. I want to thank Carolyn for coming down here. Carolyn came to the retreats, and she said, Jeanette, I want to be like you. I want to be your mini me. She wanted to be like me. And she has so far surpassed me in ways I can't explain. I'm gonna brag for a minute. This was the president of San Francisco Pride. Not San Francisco Black Pride, not the corner of San Francisco Boulevard Pride, the whole thing. And she kind of said it briefly, but she is the mayor pro tem of El Cerrito in Northern
Will be the
California.
first Black lesbian mayor in the history of the state of California in December. So everyone, so buy your tickets. Well, I don't know what day it'll be, but I'll tell you.
So when you say
that's-
what impact has BLU had on somebody?
Seriously, this is what we can do. So thank you, Carolyn, for coming down last minute. I do appreciate it. And again, if you go to www.blacklesbiansunited.org, click on read our new newsletter, scroll down just a bit, click on donate.
How was that? That was good. That was a good hard ass.
All
You'd be
right.
a good politician. Thank you, everyone.